We are on our 17th day of lockdown here in Shanghai. Hi guys, welcome to our channel. I'm James.
And I'm Kelly, and we've been living in China for the past 3 years.
Unfortunately, we have been on lockdown inside our apartment for the past 17 days. So we decided that we're going to share with you our timeline of our experiences during this lockdown and give you positives and negatives about our experiences.
Lockdown started April 1st. However, this all began pretty much at the end of February when cases started to rise in Shanghai. On Friday, March 4th, our school gave a mass testing to all students and faculty on campus. During that time, we were pretty nervous because we were already getting messages from our school to prepare overnight bags in case we had to stay mass testing. And we've had people in other schools around Shanghai that were getting locked in their schools because someone tested positive or they weren't finished testing. We just had to take a break in filming because they are going through our compound right now with giant machines that look like flamethrowers spraying every compound or every building's entrance. It's loud and it's kind of scary. Like, what? I mean, I guess they're trying to stop the spread because we keep having cases, I guess, in our compound.
It's super loud.
It doesn't make any sense. That's what it's
Alright.
like. I guess we're gonna make lunch while we wait for this to stop.
After we were tested at work, our school informed us that the Shanghai Bureau of Education mandated that all schools must close and work online. Kelly and I have been teaching online in our apartment. We switched places between teaching at our desk in our bedroom and at a table in the kitchen. Up until April 1st, we were still able to go outside and buy groceries and go to some restaurants. However, things were starting to close down.
Between March 7th and April 1st, things were still relatively open and we were able to move freely. However, things started to shut down slowly. It started with parks, and then coffee shops, and then restaurants were only allowed to have takeaway. We used that time to still go out and visit our friends because we knew sooner or later everything will shut down and we wouldn't have the opportunity to go out to see people. Also during this time, compounds were having to shut down to do mass testing. Our compound shut down twice. The first time was to do a nucleic acid test and then give us a card that showed that we had taken the test and we tested negative. However, the second time was when they started to administer the self-antigen test. And that was a quick 3-hour time period where we just had to take it, show them that we tested negative, and could leave.
During the middle of March, deliveries started to be canceled or not being able to be delivered because when items came into Shanghai, they had to be quarantined before they could be delivered. We had ordered cat food and cat litter to be delivered at this time, however, we still have not received it. On March 27th, we learned that Pudong was going to go into a 5-day lockdown, and afterwards, on April 1st, Puxi area was going to go on a 5-day lockdown, which is where we live. Because stores were already closing down during this time, and there were very limited grocery stores, it was very hard for people to stock up and buy supplies they needed for the 5-day lockdown. Kelly and I had to go to different places every single day because when we went to one grocery store, they would be completely out of certain things that we wanted. I remember going to one grocery store where it had a full line of people going out of the store just to buy the very limited stock that they had. On the day before our lockdown, Kelly was riding around and buying produce off the street because they had closed down all of the markets and even restaurants had set up shops on the side of the street selling their produce that wasn't going to be used. Because of this, we were able to fully stock up for the 5 days, but we were very hopeful that it would end in just 5 days.
The 5 days prior to the lockdown were extremely stressful for us. We were constantly going from teaching to getting out, looking for food, and just keep repeating the process until we felt comfortable enough that we could last the 5 days. April 1st started the official day of the lockdown for us, and the routine of getting daily tests. Every morning we would be woken up by someone with a megaphone telling us to get up and get tested, and there was no system or timetable of when it would happen. We would just have to wait and listen for it. On the days that we're not getting tested with nucleic acid tests, we were having to take self-antigen tests. Some days we were even doing both. On April 4th was the day that we received notice that Puxi would not reopen, and we still luckily had enough vegetables left to get us through a few days. We weren't nervous, but we were getting nervous with the fact that we were not able to find any stores open. Luckily, we had a friend that would tell us when some of the international marts would open for their limited deliveries, and we would do our best to get any sort of package that we could. We were not allowed to pick what foods we were given, but at that time we were able to pay for it, even though it was a little expensive. Different communities were doing group buys where you could sign up to get certain deliveries. However, we were not really included in this until yesterday because we are still new living here in our compound.
By the 17th day of lockdown, we have gotten really used to the routine of taking a test every single day, whether it be waking up in the morning and taking a self-antigen test or being called anytime during the day by someone on a megaphone to go outside and take a PCR test. When we're not taking tests, we are working online, teaching our students, or making food for ourselves. On the weekends, we try to keep ourselves busy by finding things to do, and we've been doing a lot of spring cleaning. We even washed our curtains the other day. Shanghai has come up with an official system for compounds to get out of lockdown. Within the first 7 days of no one testing positive, they get to leave their apartment and walk about their compound. After another 7 days of everyone testing negative, they get to leave their compound, but they must stay within their district. If at any time someone tests positive, they have to restart and do another 14 days of lockdown. Unfortunately for us, we had a positive case in our compound yesterday, so our 14 days has restarted. So it'll be at least another 13 days before we can go outside our compound.
Now we want to share with you some of our positive and negatives that we've experienced during this lockdown.
One of the biggest positives we have is we are able to continue to work online and still get paid for it. We have friends who work with younger children and they're not allowed to have online classes, so their school is cutting their salary. So we are very thankful that we are still getting paid our full salary and are able to save money during this time.
Another positive is that we've really gotten to know our neighbor. She has been extremely friendly during all of this time and has really helped make sure that we're taking the test at the correct time, having enough food, and just being that communication between us and the community. And speaking of the community, they've also been extremely friendly. The volunteers have worked very hard on making sure we get our packages, making sure that we have our QR code set up, and if we have any problems, they are always there to help. So we are very thankful that they have been so kind during all of this.
Our third positive is being able to work on our cooking skills. Normally, we would be used to going out to restaurants all the time because Shanghai is full of amazing places to go eat at, and it's normally very affordable. But now we have to make all of our meals at home. We are trying lots of new recipes with the ingredients that we have.
Another positive is, luckily, we aren't getting in fights. This is the second lockdown that we've experienced, so we're pretty used to being together 24/7. However, there are times when, we get a little frustrated, but that's only because we can't leave our apartment and it's a 1-bedroom. But, we all have our hobbies. James plays his video games and I will sit and color and read, and that's our way of keeping busy.
Another small positive is every time that we have to go outside to take a test, we get to walk around our building because they don't want you walking next to the line. So we get to go outside for maybe 10 minutes and we take our walk very slowly.
Yes. So it's a good day when we have to go take a PCR test outside.
Now we wanted to share some of the negatives about this experience. The first negative is always having the constant fear of testing positive and having to be taken to a centralized quarantine area. We would be taken away from our cats and we would have to find some way to make sure they're cared for, and we would have to wait until we had 3 negative tests in the centralized area to come back home. We might not end up going to the same place, and in some cases we'll have to pay for the centralized quarantine if we go to specific hospitals.
Not only do we have this added fear, but we have the problem of trying to order things. So trying to get groceries is very limited and there's limited options. We've had to buy things in bulk. So we now have like 50 peppers, and we ended up buying 72 beers because they had a minimum order and it was just something that we were really craving to have, especially since we're going to be here for the next 14 days. Some people even have to wake up early at like 6 a.m., some even midnight, just to try to place an order to get something delivered. It is a constant battle trying to click the button to get just to the pay screen, and it's always a minimum order and limited deliveries are allowed per day. So it's always a fight to make sure that you have enough food and get ready for the next time.
The next negative is the building frustration of basically everyone in Shanghai during this lockdown. Even in our compound, a couple of days ago, we were allowed to walk outside in our compound because we had 7 days of negative tests. However, the next day we had a positive test, so everyone had to go back inside their apartments. And we even saw a lot of people vocally saying how much they were upset about this and had to be pushed back into their apartments by the volunteers to make sure everyone went back into lockdown.
And probably the biggest negative throughout this whole lockdown and the past 2 years has been the continuation of the zero policy. We moved here in 2019 and we haven't been home since. We were really hoping that this summer we would be able to finally visit our family and friends back home. However, it is looking less likely as the cases continue to rise. The cost is too much, and trying to get everything sorted in order to go home for a few months and the quarantine policies when you arrive back into China is just too difficult for us to really explain the process. But this policy is one of the biggest things that are stopping us from being able to go home and visit.
In the end, we are still both healthy and we have each other and our cats, and we are just waiting until this lockdown ends.
Thank you for watching our video, and we hope this gave you a little bit of an insight on what it's like living here in the lockdown, especially for us and probably a lot of people around us.
If we missed anything that you have a question about, leave it in the comments below.
And if you want to see what it's like living in China without these lockdowns, make sure to subscribe to our channel and check out some of our travels that we've had throughout China. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye!
Bye.